I didn't start in the casino world looking for secrets. I just needed a job. Back then, I thought I was fixing machines, not watching people break in front of them. I didn't realize I was stepping into a world designed to study human weakness disguised as entertainment. Every casino has the same smell, a mix of air conditioning, metal, perfume, and recycled oxygen. After a while, you stop noticing it. But what you do notice is the rhythm. The lights never go out. The hum never stops. It's like being inside a living creature, one that feeds on attention. At first, it fascinated me, how perfectly it all worked. The way colors, sounds, and timing blended into this symphony of control. You start to see the floor differently, not as chaos, but as a pattern. Every reaction, every laugh, every sigh is part of the design. The casino doesn't push people to gamble. It gently pulls them in, one sensory cue at a time. After a few years, I stopped seeing slot machines as games. They became mirrors, reflections of people's emotions, fears, and hopes. You'd watch someone win and think, they're hooked now. You'd watch someone lose and think, they'll be back tomorrow. It wasn't about the money, it was about the chase. I've seen people sit for 12 hours straight, never looking away from the screen. They'd eat at the machine, talk to it, even apologize when they lost. One man told me, it listens when you're kind to it. He believed that, and then maybe in a way the machine believed him too, because the longer he stayed kind, the longer he stayed there. And the thing is, casinos don't just manipulate luck, they manipulate emotion. They use it like a conductor uses music. Too much excitement, people leave too little, people get bored. But just the right balance of near misses and tiny wins, that's how they keep you playing. I used to think I was working with technology, but really I was working with psychology. And once you see it, once you truly understand how it all works, you can't unsee it. So when people ask me which machines the casinos regret installing, I don't give them numbers or stats. I tell them stories. Because the truth doesn't live in spreadsheets or payout percentages. It lives in moments, the way a player's hand trembles after another near win, the way a machine's victory tune sounds just a little too human. Those are the signs, and those are the machines we're about to talk about. Slot number 1, the Wheel of Fortune. It looked harmless, even friendly. A bright, colorful wheel with cheerful lights and that familiar clicking sound that everyone recognized from TV people didn't just play the Wheel of Fortune. They trusted it. It had that brand name, that nostalgic glow, that feeling of, this one's different. But from behind the scenes, we all knew this machine was one of the biggest psychological traps ever placed on a casino floor. I worked in slot maintenance, and I watched it happen hundreds of times. Players would come in, spot that massive spinning wheel on the top, and think, this one's fair. You can see what's happening. They'd watch the wheel spin, land close to a big number, and feel that instant rush of almost winning. That just missed it moment wasn't a mistake. It was by design. The wheel was programmed to land just past the jackpot often enough to convince you that the next spin had to be it. It wasn't random. It was mathematical theater. There's something powerful about a visible game. You can see the wheel move, you can predict it, you can feel like you're part of the process, but that illusion of control is exactly what made it dangerous. Unlike video slots that hide behind flashing animations, the Wheel of Fortune gave players hope, and hope is far more addictive than luck. I used to stand by these machines during my shifts, pretending to check maintenance logs. In reality, I was watching patterns. The same people week after week, playing the same wheel, at the same hour, they didn't even talk much, just stared at the spinning circle as if it were answering some unspoken question. The sound of that click, click, click filled the space like a heartbeat, and every near miss made the air a little heavier. Sometimes I'd see people cry, quietly, like it wasn't even about money anymore. One woman would bring her husband's old lucky coin and whisper something before each spin. Another man came every Sunday after church, still wearing his suit, saying he was just trying to get ahead before Monday. They weren't chasing a jackpot, they were chasing redemption. When casinos realized how effective the Wheel of Fortune was at holding players for hours without big payouts, they flooded the floor with them. Different colors, different sounds, but the same code underneath. It was so profitable that some casinos quietly adjusted floor layouts just to place them near entrances. They wanted that familiar face, that friendly wheel, to greet you the second you walked in. And here's the cruel irony. The machine's success wasn't about luck or math. It was about comfort. The same sound, the same lights, the same illusion of fairness made people feel safe. It wasn't threatening or chaotic like newer games. It was nostalgic. It reminded them of a time when games were simple and winning felt possible. And here's the cruel irony. The machine's success wasn't about luck or math. It was about comfort. The same sound, the same lights, the same illusion of fairness made people feel safe. It wasn't threatening or chaotic like newer games. It was nostalgic. It reminded them of a time when games were simple and winning felt possible. The Wheel of Fortune wasn't just a slot machine. It was a perfectly engineered illusion of progress. A game that made people feel like they were playing with the house, when in fact, the house was playing with them. Slot number 2, Buffalo Gold. If the Wheel of Fortune was the illusion of control, then Buffalo Gold was pure chaos, disguised as freedom. You could hear it from anywhere on the casino floor. That wild, echoing "Buffalo" call, blasting through speakers, pulling people like a siren in the dark. Every casino technician knew. That sound wasn't just branding, it was bait. It was engineered to trigger the same instinct that makes people turn their heads when they hear a crowd cheer. And the crowd did cheer. Whenever those golden buffaloes lined up, even for small wins, people would yell like they'd hit the jackpot. You'd see strangers high-fiving, laughing, shouting. That's what casinos wanted: energy spreads. Emotion sells. If someone's excited, someone else will sit down next to them. The brilliance of Buffalo Gold was how it made losing feel exciting. The bonuses, the free spins, the scatter symbols. They came often enough to make it feel like something was always about to happen. The anticipation never dipped. You could lose 50 spins in a row and still believe the next one was warming up. The game constantly dangled that promise of escalation. One more spin, one more retrigger, one more big one. From a technical side, I can tell you, this machine was a masterpiece of psychological pacing. Its algorithm didn't aim to crush you instantly. It aimed to entertain you into losing small wins every few minutes, kept you in rhythm. And each time the bonus wheel appeared, it reignited that little spark of adrenaline. You were never bored long enough to stop. Sometimes, during my late-night maintenance shifts, I'd walk past rows of Buffalo Gold machines. The floor would be half empty, yet the sound still filled every corner. You'd see tired faces lit up by that golden glow, fingers moving automatically, like the machine had trained them to respond on instinct. It wasn't gambling anymore. It was habit, dressed as hope. I remember one woman in particular, middle-aged, quiet, always alone. She'd bring a thermos of coffee, take the same seat every night, and play the same pattern. Max bet, fast spins, eyes fixed on the reels. Sometimes she'd whisper to herself, "Come on, just one more re-trigger." When she hit even a small bonus, she'd smile softly, well, not from joy, but from relief. That's the part that stuck with me. She didn't look thrilled. She looked calm, like the machine gave her peace more than excitement. And that's the danger of Buffalo Gold. It didn't just entertain, it soothed. It wrapped the chaos of losing inside a blanket of noise and light. So you never really felt the loss until the credits hit zero. Soon, Buffalo Gold spread across the country. Every casino had a herd, rows and rows of machines glowing gold, that chant echoing through the floor like a tribal drum. It didn't matter if people won or lost. Everyone felt like part of something. That's the secret. It wasn't about gambling anymore. It was community theater. Buffalo Gold taught casinos something crucial. If you can make losing feel like participating, you'll never have to sell winning again. Slot number 3, Cleopatra. When Cleopatra first hit the casino floor, it felt different. Elegant, mysterious, almost royal. While most slot machines screamed with flashing lights and cartoonish colors, Cleopatra whispered. Its golden frame shimmered under the dim casino glow, and that soft Egyptian music, with its hypnotic harp tones and slow, seductive rhythm, made people stop and look, even before they knew what the game was. It didn't shout jackpot, it invited you closer. And that subtlety was its secret weapon, because Cleopatra didn't just sell excitement, it sold romance. The first few spins were always gentle, the wins small but frequent. Players felt a sense of connection, like the machine was warming up to them. Then came the voice, that smooth, accented whisper, "Another win for you." It wasn't just audio feedback. It was emotional conditioning, a voice that made you feel chosen, and that illusion kept people there for hours. From a technician's standpoint, Cleopatra was revolutionary. It used one of the earliest digital systems to perfectly balance reward frequency with anticipation. The bonus game, 3 scatter symbols triggering free spins, was pure genius. It made people believe they were always one spin away from something big. And when they finally hit the bonus, that music swelled, the lights dimmed, and the voice purred again. "The riches of Egypt are yours." Even if the payout was tiny, the moment felt massive. There was something almost spiritual about watching a row of people play Cleopatra. Their faces bathed in soft amber light, their eyes fixed on the reels. It looked like a ritual: no laughter, no cheering, just quiet devotion. You could walk through that section of the floor and feel the energy shift. It wasn't excitement, it was trance. I remember one older man who played the same Cleopatra machine every night for a year. He called it "my queen." Before each session, he'd wipe the screen gently with a cloth and say, "She treats me well if I'm patient." He wasn't joking. He believed it. When he lost, he'd blame himself for rushing her. When he won, he'd whisper, "Thank you." That's not gambling, that's devotion. And that's the magic of Cleopatra. It didn't need bright noise or aggressive jackpots. It played with emotion. It understood the power of intimacy in a place built on chaos. It convinced people they weren't playing against a machine. They were in a relationship with one. Even casino staff noticed the difference. Dealers would joke that the Cleopatra section was the quietest part of the floor, like church, but with slot cards. They weren't wrong. There was reverence there, a strange mix of love and surrender. Years later, when newer games came out, louder, flashier, faster, none of them could recreate what Cleopatra did. Because it wasn't just about symbols or payouts, it was about psychology, about making you feel seen. And that feeling, in a world designed to blur faces and numbers, was priceless. Cleopatra didn't just take your money, it took your sense of time, your rational thought, and replaced it with one quiet idea. She's waiting for you to win. And once that idea takes hold, you don't walk away from the machine. You walk away from reality. Slot number 4, Quick Hit Platinum. If Cleopatra seduced you slowly, Quick Hit Platinum slapped you across the face and demanded your attention. This machine didn't whisper, it shouted. It was loud, bright, and relentless, designed for players who didn't want mystery or patience. They wanted chaos, lights, and noise. You could spot Quick Hit Platinum from anywhere in the room. The machine was taller, the reels spun faster, and the sound effects were sharp, digital, almost violent. Everything about it screamed speed. You didn't play this slot, you reacted to it. The idea was simple. Stack enough quick hit symbols, and you'd win instant prizes. No waiting for bonus rounds or slow build progressions. Just fast, repetitive bursts of hope. It felt fair, even generous. But in reality, it was one of the most efficient bankroll drains ever built. From a design perspective, Quick Hit Platinum was genius. It gave constant feedback. Dings, flashes, half wins. And the bonus symbols would appear just often enough to keep your brain hooked. It wasn't random chaos. It was carefully paced stimulation. Every few seconds, something almost happened. And that almost was more addictive than winning itself. I remember standing behind a row of them during a Friday rush hour. You could feel the electricity, the sounds blending into one endless buzz, each player pressing the spin button faster and faster, their faces blank, their eyes fixed on the screens. They weren't playing for fun anymore. They were syncing with the machine's rhythm, like drummers in a trance. One night, the sound of Quick Hit Platinum filled the entire floor like static electricity. It wasn't music, it was a pulse. Every seat was full, every screen glowing in perfect sync. And for a moment, the casino felt like a factory. Hundreds of people moving in perfect unison, pressing, waiting, reacting. A human machine feeding the digital one. Sometimes I'd walk behind the machines and hear the players talking to themselves. Not full sentences, just fragments. "Come on," again, "there you go." just one more. They didn't even realize they were speaking. Their eyes never left the screen. You could tell their minds were gone, pulled entirely into that loop of sound, light, and touch. Casinos loved quick hit platinum for one reason. It didn't give players time to think. It replaced reflection with reaction. You didn't plan bets or calculate odds. You just pressed, watched, and pressed again. That endless feedback cycle, a win, a near miss, a flash, kept dopamine levels spiking just enough to stop boredom, but never long enough to create satisfaction. And when the machine finally did pay out, it wasn't huge, but it felt huge. Because after hundreds of tiny, rapid spins, that short moment of stillness, the lights flaring, the sound crescendoing, was almost euphoric. Then, seconds later, it all reset. The cycle started again. Quick hit platinum wasn't built for players who wanted to gamble. It was built for those who needed distraction. It was for people who didn't want to think about time, who wanted motion, reaction, color, anything to keep their brain moving. Quick hit platinum wasn't just a game. It was a feedback loop disguised as fun, a system that rewarded your attention long enough to take it away completely. And the scariest part, most players walked away not angry but energized. Because in their minds, they hadn't lost. They just kept the action going. Slot number 5, Megabucks. If every other slot on the floor was designed to make you believe you could win, Megabucks was built to make you believe you should. It stood apart from the others. Larger, louder, surrounded by gold trim and polished lights that made it glow like a monument. While smaller machines fought for attention, Megabucks didn't have to. It carried an aura. That mythical jackpot that had made millionaires, the kind of legend that outlived its winners. From the outside, it was the dream machine. One spin, one miracle, and life could change forever. That's how it was marketed, and that's exactly how players saw it. Even seasoned gamblers, the ones who laughed at systems and knew the math, couldn't help but feel something when they stood in front of that colossal screen. Every casino I've worked in had at least one Megabucks sitting like a shrine. It was placed in perfect view, not hidden in a corner, but where everyone walking by could see it. And every now and then, the jackpot counter would roll another million higher, its glowing numbers ticking like a countdown in reverse. People didn't play Megabucks often, but when they did, they played with reverence. They'd rub the screen, whisper small prayers, press the button slowly, as if the machine could sense sincerity. It wasn't gambling anymore. It was ritual. But behind the curtain, those of us who serviced the machines knew the truth. Megabucks wasn't a game of chance. It was a game of patience. The odds of hitting that life-changing jackpot were microscopic. 1 in tens of millions. You had a better chance of getting struck by lightning twice. And yet, that didn't matter. Because Megabucks wasn't selling math. It was selling mythology. Sometimes late at night when the casino was quiet and the hum of the air conditioning drowned out the music, I'd look at that machine glowing in the dark, and it felt less like a slot and more like an altar. The people who played it weren't there for excitement. They were there for absolution. To cleanse the week's losses with one final chance at redemption, they believed in that machine more than they believed in anything else. I once saw a man drop to his knees in front of it after hitting a big win. Not the jackpot, but close enough. He was crying, shaking, whispering thank yous to a screen. His friends took photos, the staff smiled, and the machine kept flashing its empty congratulations. It was a moment that looked like joy, but to me it felt like surrender. And when the real jackpot did hit, the entire casino stopped. Even people who weren't playing turned their heads. For that brief electric minute, every player on the floor believed again. It didn't matter who won. The story was what mattered. Because if one person could do it, then anyone could. That belief alone was worth millions. A week later, I passed the same machine. Different people. Same energy. The counter had reset. The lights still glowed. And the myth had already begun again. The winner was gone, but the dream remained. Because the house doesn't sell wins. It sells the possibility of them. Megabucks was more than a machine. It was a mirror reflecting everything casinos are built on: faith, fantasy, and the human need to believe that luck might finally notice us. And that's what makes it timeless. Even when people lose, they leave with a strange kind of peace. Not because they beat the game, but because for one brief moment, they believed they could. Sometimes I think about all the people I've seen over the years. The late night regulars, the first timers with that spark in their eyes, the ones who came to escape something, and the ones who stayed because they couldn't escape at all. Casinos are built on patterns, not just in code, but in people. Everyone thinks they're different, that they'll beat the system. But the system isn't something you beat, it's something you become a part of. Every sound, every flash, every heartbeat syncs with yours until you don't know where the game ends and you begin. I've seen big winners. They cry, they laugh, they swear they'll never come back. And then they do. Because deep down, it's not about the money, it's about the feeling. The rush of being chosen by the machine, even just once. The belief that maybe luck finally noticed you. But luck doesn't notice anyone. Luck is the perfect alibi. It gives meaning to randomness and turns design into destiny. That's the cruel poetry of the casino. It lets you blame fortune for what the system already planned. I stopped fixing machines a long time ago, but I still remember the sounds, the endless cascade of coins, the chime of a fake jackpot, the hollow applause from the speakers. It all blurs together, a lullaby for the desperate, a soundtrack for surrender. The truth is, casinos don't steal your money. They take your attention, and attention is worth more than gold, because once you give it away, you start giving away everything else. The real jackpot isn't the win. It's the illusion that you were ever in control, and the house knows that better than anyone. So if you ever find yourself in front of a glowing machine, take a deep breath, look around, feel the hum of the lights and the weight of the air, and ask yourself one question. Am I playing the game, or is the game playing me? If this story made you see things differently, hit like, share it with someone who still believes in luck, and subscribe for more stories from behind the curtain. Because in a world built on illusions, sometimes the only real power you have is knowing how the trick works.